Welcome back. We are reading Miss Hickory, a book from my childhood that I rediscovered when I visited a used bookstore. I love used bookstores. You find all kinds of wonderful things to read there, and this is one of them, Miss Hickory. And we are finishing up Squirrel Finds a Live Nut, where Miss Hickory is trying to avoid using the word nut. She's afraid that the squirrel will notice her nutty head. So, okay, we'll continue on. Squirrel's ears rose. He came closer to Miss Hickory and peered into her face. She could not turn her head away from him. Squirrel sniffed her. He tapped her nose playfully. A nut. That's what you think I am? He chattered. How about you? Where did you get your head? She turned and hurried away, but Squirrel followed her. She could run fast, but he leaped over stubble and stones, out of the woods and through the jungle of dry sumac bushes. He pursued her. Miss Hickory climbed the stone wall into the orchard, but Squirrel jumped over it and was waiting for her on the other side. Squirrel's sharp white teeth showed in a grin as they came to Mackintosh Lane, but surprisingly, he did not touch her. As a matter of fact, all Squirrel wanted was a race. Up her apple tree, Miss Hickory scrambled. She dashed into her nest, looking over the edge fearfully. Squirrel was down below on the ground. Hickory, Miss Hickory is my name, she called to him, trying to awe Squirrel and saying exactly what she had not intended to divulge. So I thought when I saw your head, he replied. Such a good race, was it not? There's nothing like a cross-country run on a frosty morning for getting one home in time for dinner. Home, she gasped. Why, yes, quite a coincidence, Miss Hickory, Squirrel chattered on. I have my home right here at the foot of your tree. My mother left it to me in her will. So, she's discovered that Squirrel lives right underneath her. Scary. He's going to be interested in her nut head here. The next chapter is Miss Hickory's Good Deed. Let's see what happens next. Hen Pheasant and Miss Hickory left the brush pile in the pine wood side by side. They crossed the orchard, turned into the field called High Mowing, and walked toward the wild lot across from the old place where blueberries grew. Cock is away on business? Miss Hickory asked. I saw him coming along this way early. Hen Pheasant, a drab little creature with neither color nor liveliness, gave a mournful cluck. Now, in November, Cock has left me, she told Miss Hickory. He has moved to the other side of the brush pile. He does not let me have any breakfast. Is that the custom? Miss Hickory asked, looking at Hen Pheasant. She saw that here was no glamorous creature like Cock Pheasant, who walked in grandeur, his tail feathers trailing like ribbons of rainbow. He left me last autumn, too, Hen Pheasant said. He began to neglect me about this time. Every morning when I walked behind Cock at a respectful distance, when he came to a feeding place, he turned and pecked me home again. Brutal! No gentleman! Miss Hickory stamped her foot. What did you do about it, Hen? Nothing, she answered dolefully. There seemed to be little left to say, so they went on side by side in silence. Miss Hickory, since she had found out that Squirrel lived at the roots of her apple tree on Mackintosh Lane, had stayed away from her nest as much as possible. Squirrel had not molested her, but she valued her head too highly to take any risks. One evening, when she had hung up her hat and undressed, had settled down with her downy bed and covered herself, she was startled to see two bright eyes peering at her. Squirrel had climbed up and was looking over the rim of her nest, but he came no farther. Just came up to be neighborly, he chattered. Pleasant dreams. Then he was gone. Pleasant dreams indeed. Miss Hickory had put on her hat and pulled it down tightly. She had not slept a wink. Ever since that night she had worn her hat to bed. So now in November she was down the tree and about every day enjoying the autumn leaves. They enfolded her in color. They lay beneath her feet, blowing on their merry stems to keep her company. They spread a carpet of russet, gold, and scarlet upon the mountain. Miss Hickory saw new colors each day as the mountain changed from the flames of the maples to the rosy glow of the turning oaks. She was never cold, for her sap was running well. She thought it silly that Hen Pheasant should feel sorry for herself at so bright a season of the year. Hen Pheasant trudged silently along, her head low. Miss Hickory turned on her at last. "If I were in your place, Hen, I wouldn't allow it," she scolded. "I should teach him to be a gentleman." "How?" Hen asked mildly. "That is the custom among the cocks. Some autumns they allow us to have breakfast with them, sometimes not. Are you a school teacher?" she asked curiously. "I plan to take over a school next spring." The idea had just popped into Miss Hickory's head. "Then you have brains. Perhaps you can advise me." As a matter of fact, Miss Hickory could think of no means of teaching Cock Pheasant good manners. But just then they came upon a surprise. They came suddenly upon a shelter for wintering birds where high mowing ended and the blueberry pastures began. The mower would have been called slack by anyone who did not understand him. In truth, he was very kind. He had allowed the tall grasses and the weeds to grow high where a stone wall uh, make a windbreak. That's why he did it, to make a windbreak. There were some ears of corn left standing there also for food. It was a better winter home for little Hen Pheasant than the rough brush pile in the woods. Miss Hickory clapped her hands. "Look, Hen!" she shrilled. "Something has turned up." Hen Pheasant stepped into the shelter and pecked at a few kernels of corn, but her small gray head still drooped and her feathers hung draggled and slack. Miss Hickory lost patience. "Hold your head up, Hen. You are are in a winter shelter with seeds and corn on your doorstep, and you droop. Hold your head up, I say, and be thankful." "I won't be allowed to stay here," Hen Pheasant sighed, her head still lower. "Cock will cluck me out." That, Miss Hickory saw, was exactly what might happen. Cock Pheasant would come along over the snow, his feathers splashing a line of gold and scarlet against the white. He would come upon the shelter beside the stone wall with the stalks of corn and the grasses that the mower had left. He would drive Hen out and move in himself. The situation seemed hopeless. Miss Hickory thought hard-headedly. She drew upon her past. "Hen," she said at last, "are there other hens in the same difficulty as you?" "All of us. Our cocks refuse to nest with us in the winter. They live together in their club on the other side of the brush pile until spring." "Then," Miss Hickory told her, "you must do the same." And that's where we will leave it, where the Hen Pheasants will get advice from Miss Hickory to band together and take care of each other. Until next time.